Now, it just wouldn't be the 13 days of Halloween without a zombie. So, for today, for day 8, we're throwing down this zombie look. It's super easy and very simple, and it's a pretty fresh zombie. So, let's get started. Since we're recently deceased, I'm going to make sure my bite mark is very clear. I'm just throwing down some liquid latex and then rolling up a little bit of my scar wax and applying that to the latex. Once it is adhered, I am then taking some oil on my fingers and smoothing out the edges. Applying the teeth marks are super easy. All you need is like a spatula or something with a nice round flat end, and all you do is make sure it is loaded up with some sort of oil or makeup remover so it does not stick to the wax, and just drag it through. This is super simple and super easy and looks pretty darn rad. Now I'm just adding a little bit of the lower jaw. To make sure this doesn't go anywhere all night, I'm locking everything in with some liquid latex. And to remove the shine that liquid latex leaves, go ahead and powder it. To keep this zombie low budget, I'm just going to apply some oatmeal to my face. You can also use Rice Krispies. All you're going to do is lay down some liquid latex, and I'm focusing around the areas of my face that tend to become infected when you're sick. So around your mouth and nose, those are all the areas that those kind of pustule things will show up, which is a really gross thing to say. But you're just gonna lay them down, wait for that to dry, and then you're gonna seal those all up. Try not to move your face too much while it dries. Afterwards, go ahead and give it a nice powdering, and then I'm just coating my entire face with a pale foundation. Now, if you don't have access to alcohol-activated paints, you can go ahead and skip this step, as this is kind of a general foundation, and a Bruise wheel that I'm going to be using later does most of the work for me. However, I am using these to put in a little bit of that veining effect, though you can totally skip this part. This is the Bruise wheel I'm using. I'm sure you've seen it at your party supply or Halloween shop. They're pretty inexpensive and they're a cream-based paint. I'm first going in with this red to give some texture and definition. I'm just using my finger, and then I'm going in with the darker colors before going in with the green and yellow as well. Now it's time to make these pustules really gross. I'm going around all the edges with red body paint and just blurring those out with my fingers as needed. You can go as crazy as you would like here, and what we're trying to do is make everything look really oozy and gross and sticky. And afterwards, we're going to take the same red and do some veining. I suggest using a small brush like this, as small little marks will add to that veining effect that we're aiming for, so making little sharp lines is going to add a lot of information to this look. Now, like I said earlier, we're going to add in the veining. Taking a small fine brush, you're just going to take a light hand and add lines connecting down to your bite mark. This is going to show the infection spreading out from these areas. I'm also doing the same thing with a blue, but I'm not adding as much as I did with the red. And if some lines are looking too stark, you can always tap them down with your finger. This will help blur them out. Now for the best part, making that bite mark look really grody. All I'm doing is the same technique on the pustules. I'm going in with the red first and dragging those down to make the teeth marks. After that, I'm going in with a darker red and going into the edges that are the deepest part of those and darkening them up. I'm quickly jumping back to my Bruise wheel as this area was not looking as gross as I wanted it to be. This is the ground zero for your infection, and I really wanted that to stand out. So I'm going back in with those reds and those dark colors to really make that infection look like it's spreading. I'm now using my favorite blood ever, the Coagulated Blood by Mehron, and adding that into the ends of my cut, and then I'm making sure I kind of drag those out before applying it to all my pustules and tapping that out with my hands. Since we are a fresh zombie, the rest of our face will not be looking this good, so I'm going in with some eyeshadows and making those eye bags and kind of hollowing out my cheeks. I'm making sure I stay really messy here and dabbing it on with a brush as I don't want this to be clean. I want it to add to the rest of the pustules and grossness that is happening around my face, so I'm making sure I'm using a really rough hand. To make everything cohesive, I'm just going in my eye areas and adding veining and then the texture with my stippling sponge. Add any bruises or cuts that you want around the rest of your face or on your upper body. Since I wanted everything to pull together, I did a little bit of shading on my neck, but mostly used my Bruise wheel to pull the colors down onto my chest. To make things a little more gross, I'm adding more of the blood around my mouth to give it a gross, oozy effect. I am then taking some black food coloring and swishing that around in my mouth and just letting it drool down my chin. This is going to make it look like I have eaten some recently and it has dried onto my face. Tussle your hair just a little bit and you are done. You are now a gross, fresh zombie. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you come back for more. Happy hunting!